Hello everyone, my name is Boss, I'm your host. Welcome back to the channel Mirror Mind. Today I have a guest, his name is Brennan, and we're here once again to explore our minds. So as we'll be talking, please just be part of the conversation. It's a whole journey we'll be taking, so if you feel tired, you can pause, you can go somewhere else, but it's a journey and it's worth it. Brennan, if you would like, you can introduce yourself as well. But
Cool, thanks, boss. Yeah, Brendan. I work at Solid Gold here, using this recording. And yeah, thank you for having me.
No, perfect. Yeah, as I was telling you just a few seconds ago, I never really have a direction. But the discussion with Callum gave me an idea. And I think I have two questions. They just popped out of nowhere. We can ask them, and then we'll find ways of getting to those questions. The first one I have is, what is going on? All right. And the second one is, what is a question? So I think we can explore that, and maybe I feel like we can get something good out of it. You know, also before coming here, I was talking to my boss. He wanted me to do some work.
Boss speaking to boss.
No, that's my real boss. He wanted me to do some work, and unfortunately, you know, I was supposed to be on holidays, but that's kind of the work that I do never really stops. So sometimes I have to jump in and do something. So I was thinking, you know, I have to go to the podcast, and then I have to do this job and all that. So the whole control movement started happening in my head. You know, it just messed up the whole routine, because you can't exactly say no to your boss. But then again, this is something that I really feel is really important. In fact, I think it's the most important thing to me. You know, being able to communicate with people, share our ideas, and find unity in our differences. You know, you sitting here, me sitting here, and then we can find somehow in our exploration we can be just one thing. So I think to me it is the most important thing, and it kind of resolves a lot of conflict, human conflict. So I was really stuck with those two choices. How do I say no to the job? I can't exactly say it. And how do I get to the podcast? And then I just said, you know what, I have to go to work. You know, there's nothing that I can do. I'll probably find a way to talk to Brennan. Hopefully he'll understand. And just as I took that decision, the guy calls me. He's like, hey, no, don't worry.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I'm like, yeah, what a coincidence. So let's start exploring what is control. You know, this idea of control first. And then I feel like if we explore it good enough, we'll answer those two questions.
Yeah.
So, but before getting there, what is your experience? I mean, how do you see life? How do you... I know as a human being, you have your challenges, you have your pleasures, your fears, and all that. Like, do you ever question life? Like, what's the meaning of this whole...
I think I do that almost every day. If I don't have something on my mind, it's, you know, what are we doing here? What's the purpose of it all? Not being a religious person, it can take a toll sometimes mentally from what I believe, you know, what's the purpose of all of it? There's no test. There's no end to it all. After this, it's just...
No reward.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever happens here, it's what happens. So what I find in life, it's just what you really make of it. It's a very broad thing, but if you enjoy doing something, you should do it. Life is too short to be worrying about that all the time. So even though it may be on my mind all the time, for me to go, oh, what's the meaning of life? I don't know. Let me go have some lunch because I'm going to enjoy that right now. Yeah. Focus on that small thing. It's going to get me through thinking about it. I find it's a very hard question, but it can be different for everyone. I find it personally as do what you enjoy, because after anything, if it's bad, if it's good, it doesn't really matter in the end, as long as you enjoy it.
Okay. So See, when you look at, let's say a question pops up in your mind and like, okay, what's the meaning of this whole thing? You know, it's too broad. You can't answer the question. Then you say, you know what, let me just go and get lunch. So, isn't there some sort of control in that?
100%. Yeah, there's the whole, this big existential question. What can I do about it?
Yeah.
It can severe panic attacks. Oh no, what am I going to do? And I can just say, just stop. You know, there's no point in thinking about what's going to happen the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Stuff might change by then. I'm still young, but I can just I'm just going to do what I have control over now. I can choose to go do this. I can choose to go do that. I'm going to enjoy doing that. So I'm just going to go do that now. At some point, I'll just forget that I asked myself the question and just kind of fall back into the flow of what everyone goes through of just in life. Yeah.
So in that equation, there's a lot of thinking happening, obviously. That is only possible through thought.
Yeah.
Through the movement of thinking. And there seems to be a controller. The guy who's saying, you know what, don't worry too much about this. Let's get some lunch. So there's a controller who's controlling whatever that is going on, right? So this idea of controller, which is me, right? I am the controller. Is there such a thing as a controller? Because you see what happened is something, you know, so out of nowhere, you look at the immensity of life. So the same controller who's saying, you know, don't worry about it, is the same one who a few seconds ago was worrying about it.
100%, yeah.
And then he convinces himself that he's doing something else than what he was doing before. But it's the same movement of controlling happening, right?
Yeah.
So is there a controller?
I think yes, but it can vary between different people. Exactly like that. In that regard, I would consider my own self a controller, depending on what I'm doing. So if I'm, don't have any work signed up and I can choose what I'm going to do, I become my own controller. In regards, if I get work, then of course my boss would become my controller, because then I'm taking my mind off of everything else and going, oh, okay, let me just do what he told me to do. So in a way, he becomes a controller. I find people can use religion as a controller. Having a thought of being in control of your life may be quite daunting. So people can turn to religion as a thing of,
it's a good escape.
I'm person over there gets to control. I'll follow that control so I don't have to worry about it. And that can be used as religious texts and anything like that. Pastors, they give people a goal, a reason. So they don't want to control it themselves. So I think, yes, there is controllers, but it can vary from person to person and depending on the situation.
Okay, I feel we should explore that. I feel there's some sort of illusion in that. Within yourself, let's forget about the whole world. Within yourself, right? This idea of controller. First of all, how do you control this? Through thought. Let's say, I want to get to the living room there. So you remember the idea, the knowledge of your living room. That's thought. You want a certain act to be repeated. You've been in a living room. You've done something in the living room. You want that, basically knowledge, you want repetition of that. So the controller is the past. Without the past, is there any control at all? Any controller? I
think yes, and that's where doing new things come in. So yeah, you could find comfort in the past. You with thoughts, it's past memories. So you want to relax. So where's a place I relax? Oh, the living room, because you know in your mind. Oh, I went there. You can sit down, watch TV. It's a relaxed space. So you're looking for a relaxed space. So you use the past as that. But let's say you want to do something new. When people go on holidays, they're like, let me go to this country I've never been to before. You can't really use the past experience if it's the first time you're doing something. So. But
what made you decide to go to a country? To control where you will be going?
Yeah, it could be anything. It's you're not comfortable in the space you are now. You don't like your environment. Let me try something new, and then okay, let me try a completely different environment, and you go there.
So, which means what? You're in a place, it's a bit uncomfortable, and you know the opposite of that uncomfortability. It is you want that comfort to be repeated.
Sometimes you might not know what the comfort you're looking for. You just know that where you currently are is
It's not good.
not where you want to be. So you might not
That's
know what your comfort is, but you know that where you currently are is not okay. So you're forced to change something until you find a way that, this is
Okay.
either better or, wow, this is something I needed that I didn't know I wanted.
So what you're saying, in that case, you mean, just want to explore this, I'm not sure yet. Can you project, in that case, you mean you can project something that you don't know of? Because can you project something that you don't know of?
I don't think so. I would say no, you can't.
You can't, right?
Not deeply. You could think about it, and you could not experience it, but you could think what it's like to be in that said position.
Like how? Let's see that. How would you do that?
This job offer that I got, I've never worked in it before, but I can imagine in my current situation, things would change like this. You could think what the new position could be like, and you can't 100% get a definite answer on what it would be like. You can't project it to other people. You can say, oh, but it's working with computers there. I work with computers here, so I could kind of maybe understand how it works. So
you project some images.
Yeah, exactly.
With those images, can you project working on a computer without having worked on a computer?
I don't think so. No.
There's no way, right?
You could you could falsely think that you understand how it works, but until you're actually there, you won't get the 100% true picture of what it's like.
So projection is basically the past, in a way.
Yeah, 100%.
Past modified, but any sort of modification comes from the past.
You learn from it. I mean, take a projector for example. Exactly, it's taking something from the past and putting it up there. Yeah.
So you can't project something new.
No, not really. No.
Yeah, which means you can't think of something new.
You could. I feel that's wrong. You can try and believe something to be true, even though it might not be.
Yeah. For example, let's take the religious people. I'm sorry, so I've received some backlash, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because a lot of people take, and rightfully so, they take religious really seriously. So, when you say something, you can't be open-minded. When you say something, then the judge, you don't understand, and it's faith. I get where they're coming from, but at the end of the day, to be able to find what is true, we kind of have to put everything out there. So, a Christian can imagine paradise. He can imagine, first of all, he knows it's up there. He never said it's down there because he's been told it's up. He knows it's, the fruits, we are with animals, he can imagine what he's been told. He can think of that. He can call it new, it's a completely new place where, the feeling he probably associates, the feeling of happiness that he's experienced before, so that all that, and then says that's paradise. Without that knowledge, what does he have? Is there paradise?
Well, I think, and again, religion, I'm not hating against it, it's just personal beliefs.
Yeah.
It's that whole paradise, it has to be given to them in some way, and that's where readings come from in the book and people's religious texts. It says in there, this is what it is. And the person or people or however that came to be written came from somewhere. So it's not like the religious person themselves is saying, oh, I'm making up what this paradise is like. They've learned it from somewhere, which is someone else's projection. So whether that came from a past experience, whether they were told by some upper power, they're being projected onto by someone. So it's not like the person is going, when I die, I'm going to go to paradise. They're not thinking about that themselves. They've been told. They've been taught that.
So you can't believe, and for you to believe, you have to be told. You have to be convinced.
You have to learn it from somewhere.
Yeah, you have to experience it by listening to someone, reading something, and all that.
Yes.
So, which is what I'm saying. You say you can think of something new. I'm having a difficulty seeing that. What is something new that you can put up there? Besides the modification of whatever that you already know.
It could be completely different belief systems. Let's say you went from not being religious to being religious. That's a big thing, because you went a majority of your life up until then believing in one thing to completely being projected in a way to think of something else. So it's not, in that case, it's not more of a, you're not thinking of something completely new. It's very difficult to think of something completely new because you can only use things that you've used prior. So,
I would say you can discover something new, but you can't think of something new.
Yeah, thinking of something new is trying to think of a new color that does that you look at the color spectrum and you go, where can I get a new color? You can't. It's very close to that.
You can't think of something new. So you have to experience whatever for you to think about it, to twist it, to all that. So, which means what? The whole controlling means knowledge wants repetition. A certain, let's say you're here, you're not comfortable, you want to be somewhere else. Thought is, basically knowledge wants repetition of a certain action. It's not satisfied with what is happening now. It wants something else, which already is the past. Basically, knowledge always wants some sort of repetition in it. Within ourselves, we always want some sort of repetition. The controller in this case is the memory of whatever that you know that is coming to what is, interfering with what is happening right now. Besides that, there's no control. Besides knowledge, you understand sensations.
Yeah.
You have the whole feeling of it. But for you to even feel something, there has to be some sort of interaction, right? Let's say we see a leopard come here. I hope it doesn't. Let's say a leopard comes out of nowhere. For you to see the leopard and feel like, oh man, we need to fly,
your fight or flight, yeah.
You need to know what is a leopard. I mean, a baby wouldn't understand. You just see, it's like, that's why you see them playing with dogs and cats, like snakes, they don't care. So, your knowledge is telling you what to do all the time. The past is telling you what to do, which means, in other words, the past wants repetition.
It's a good way of learning. That is how I like to think of knowledge as steps that you keep going up, more like a building floor. You have this knowledge and then you pass it to the next one. It's the foundation for which you continue learning there. So for humanity as a species to progress, we've learned that, if a dangerous predator walks in here, I need to not be in the same room. If it is here, I need to either fight it or get out of here. And that's how we got into this point, is by keep doing that for new things. You learn A equals B. You don't go, I don't know what, A plus B equals C. If you don't have A plus B equals C and you don't know what that is, you're like, I don't know what these two equal. You won't learn from the next thing.
Literally, that's how serious knowledge is. It's very important. The whole thing, we have a table because of knowledge, because of the past. Acquired knowledge. Without that, we are monkeys in the jungle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now we've become a little bit more sophisticated. We've come up with equations. We can make atomic bombs and all that. We've made beliefs, all that. So knowledge doesn't know. There's no distinction between good knowledge and bad knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. It's just, it has to be both good and bad in a way.
Well, I feel like you can get good and bad knowledge. Not bad knowledge as in you shouldn't learn that, more of a we learned that we shouldn't base everything off of that. So I would say there's a spectrum of knowledge. All knowledge builds up, but yes, you do get a good knowledge that benefits us more than knowledge that hurts us.
No, what to say? Bad knowledge is what you would call detrimental, right? Something that will cause you harm. Something that, maybe, building a gun, and you already know you have the knowledge of death. In fact, actually, that's very interesting. People are afraid of death not because they know what death is. They've never experienced death. They have knowledge of what death is. They're afraid of themselves. They're afraid of the knowledge of death.
I feel like it can vary between people. I know.
Are you afraid of death? Would you say you're afraid of death?
I'm afraid of death because it's too early. I know what I believe is that when I die,
Yeah.
that's it, you know, forever. Forever, forever, forever. That's
gone.
it. So I'm scared because I'm going, wow, you know, there's so much more that I could experience. So I'm afraid of death that there's a lot of things I know I'll lose. When I die, I know I won't care. I won't be. So, but as a person who's conscious and can think about it, I'm scared of the prospect of death because of what I've yet to learn. That's why I take a lot of notes when an older person says they're coming close to death, or a few people that say like, you know, if I die and, you know, I'm 89, if I die next month, oh well, you know, I've done my time. I find a lot of...
Probably it's a pain even. Living at 89, your body's aching.
Exactly,
and
you
all
know,
that.
they've come to reason that they've experienced, they think they've experienced enough. They would like to do stuff, but, you know, if they had to pass the next day, they wouldn't be fighting too harshly for it. They'd be like, I've come to terms with it. But as personally myself, at a very young age, I haven't come to terms with it. So I fear it because I haven't accepted it yet.
Yeah, but it feels like a lot of people may accept death, but at the moment of death, they project something a bit comfortable. Maybe your comfort is disappearing forever. Other people, their comfort is living forever in paradise.
Yeah.
You know, but we project something out there, which means we're projecting the past. Because remember we said you can't project something that you don't know of. So you only project the past. It's funny enough, you know, there's a guy who was talking to me online. He says, but no, you can't say that you can't project something. I mean, I can think of something new. And then he just said blah, 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 some funny words.
Yeah.
And then said that's something new. What I was trying to tell him is, for you to even be able to say blah, 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 it means you understand the meaning of new. You know, you've repeated, you've understood that, okay, look, if I say a word that doesn't make any sense, that is something new. But in your mind, it's not new. It's a repetition of your knowledge.
100%. Yeah. You could bloat out words, but you're bloating out those words because you've learned it from the English.
Yeah.
It's like trying to create a whole new language. I think there's a line in where creating new can be in, let's say, usefulness. You know, he might say that word, but it might not have any meaning behind it. That could lean more to like that bad knowledge we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So why would we use that word if we have a better thing for it? So yeah, he may have made something new, but I think making something new can only take effect when it's on the good knowledge side. So we could use that word, and he's like, oh wow, that word, we could actually use it for the day before yesterday. English doesn't have that. We use the day before yesterday because that works. So if we just take that word and use it, then I think he's not made something new, but he has made something new, but not out of nothing. He's made it off of the past knowledge that he knows. The
past knowledge it's knowledge still in action.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, you can't move without knowledge. Psychologically speaking, it is always circular in a way. So coming back to control, if the controlling is only possible through knowledge, the projection, the memories, the regrets, the hopes, the pleasure seeking, the pain avoidance, all that is only possible through knowledge. And knowledge being in the past. I don't know I can't possibly imagine future knowledge.
I think there's a line between making new stuff and discovering new stuff. So, like scientists, they don't make new things. They just use the past information and what they understand to identify new things. So they don't make it, but they identify. So I think making new things should rather be called discovering new things or discovering new ways of doing things. One thing I've always had in my mind is that we've built a system, math. 1 + 1 = 2, and we've lived by that. And that's grown so much that we can say we know how the planets are moving at this exact speed because we've based off of 1 + 1 = 2. I've always wondered if we've made a system where 1 + 1 = 3, and we use that as our basis, does that change what we will discover later on? We actually discover, oh wow, this thing actually works like this because of the foundations that we made. So I've always thought about that.
I think I've also thought about that. I think to me, it was the other way around. I was thinking, if what we call bad is what, I don't know, if things were opposite, like good are bad and bad are good, it's just an idea. But, I think the scientists, first we have to find a way of talking, communicating, So the language came, it's like a natural order of language, right? As we're saying, to learn a new language, you hear a noise, the more you repeat that noise, you associate it to this, this is a bottle, right? So we found first a communication thing within ourselves. Next thing, then we had to look at what is happening. We identify everything. Math basically is identification of a certain movement. So if I do this, this is rolling. At some point, it has to stop. We're just describing what is really happening. Then we make it into a knowledge. But what is really happening, I mean, it's how can I put it?
Math is a language.
Yeah, math is a language.
We're just describing what is happening from where you're rolling until it hits something, but in a term of a math language. So it's trying to it's writing in a book and saying, hey, I'm sending a message to you, and they look at it and go, I understand what's written here, but just in a practical, physical world.
Yeah, there seems to be a movement that is going on, which is why I asked the question, what is going on? So there seems to be a movement that is going on, almost eternal in its nature. I'm not sure if I'm being there's an illusion in that, but it seems to be an eternal movement happening. All we are doing basically is describing that movement. The very description of that movement is saving that movement as knowledge, which we call as the language, the identity, we split, we say this is the physical, this is the psychology, the whole thing. But there seems to be a movement that is happening. There's no controller in that whole movement. The controller is knowledge, me. From my point of view, I want this to happen, and knowledge being the past. So which means in myself, I am the past. Well, I know I'm here,
Yeah.
I haven't traveled back in time.
But you're changing your future from the knowledge from the past.
The very second I'm thinking, I'm bringing back whatever that I know. So I am the past. The past wants to control what is going on right now. But every movement, as long as I am there, it's the past. I'm in a way moving away from what is going on right now. So that's the illusion, to me at least, that's the illusion of control. The idea that I can do some, psychologically speaking, I mean, out here we can do some things. I mean, we can lift a bottle, we can build nice things. But I'm saying in myself, let's say when I feel fear, this idea that I can do something about fear. The controller being knowledge of fear and remembrance of states where there's no such a thing, a different thing, which means I want a certain knowledge to be repeated. And in my fights there, one knowledge fighting another knowledge, that's what creates that whole, that feeling of anxiety and, panic attack, because this something is happening, you want something else to happen. You're fighting with yourself, basically. That's what creates the whole anxiety. I was talking to a guy not so long ago. He has some really serious anxiety issues. The more he tries to stop them, the more anxious he becomes. So, which is why I was thinking, well, what is control then? Why are you trying to even stop it if the very try of stopping that is making it worse?
Well, speaking as someone with anxiety, chronic anxiety, it does feel like that. It's really hard to identify what causes you to have more anxiety. That's why it's really hard to find what your triggers are for anxiety. Very much, I like that idea of it's the two things fighting each other. If I'm anxious about something, it's the current thing that I have now, and for my anxiety is what I think is going to happen. Yeah. And it's that fear of, wow, I really messed up with this thing, and then from past things, this is what's going to happen, even though it might not. Even if it hasn't happened before. I screwed up this thing. I've never seen this person's reaction before, but you always just think about the worst thing. And I think trying to stop yourself by continuously thinking about it, trying to convince yourself, no, it won't be like that, it just continues conflicting.
It's confusing.
So, yes, thinking about how to stop it may cause more, but it's not as easy of going, I'm just not going to think about it.
Which is another sort of control. Saying I'm not going to stop, I'm not going to think about it, it's another sort of control.
Which I feel like it adds a third knowledge trying to conflict. And then you're in this, your brain feels like scrambled eggs just constantly moving around where you're trying to stop a lot of voices and control at trying to fight for the top position. That's what it feels like.
No, that's how he described it to me as well. And I think, some people, maybe it's worse than others, but I feel like we're involved in the same sort of struggle within ourselves, psychologically speaking. That's why we have anxiety, that's why we have anger. The more I look at it, the more I find it hard to even describe or differentiate emotions. Fear, anger, anxiety, it seem to be the same, deep down, the same movement, but maybe the body reacts differently and it comes with different intensities, but at the base, it's the same movement. A thought that is fighting another thought. Basically, I am dividing myself into the controller and that which is being controlled. And the controller is always coming back, from the past. The very second the controller is there, which is the past, he has created another past, which is what was happening. And now, it's an eternal war because you can't, the more you think, the more you go back, and the more you create more past. So why don't we see the illusion in that? I mean, I understand at the moment of happening, you can't do anything. I don't even think you should try to do anything. But as we're sitting like this, there's no leopard. I know there's no leopard coming out of nowhere. Why don't we see? Is it possible to see the whole controlling thing, the whole illusion of control, so that next time when it happens, you know exactly what is going on. The very knowledge of, the very attention of that movement completely stops the illusion, which probably will come, it's a movement, you can't do anything about it, but the very understanding of it gives you some sort of
control over the control.
I didn't want to use control, but you gave it my point.
So you're saying if we can identify what we're doing is us or something under control of what we're going to do and are currently doing, can we see past it to make it in our own way of sorts?
Yeah, can we, basically, I'm trying to say, can you live a life without control?
I don't think so. I feel like control really deep down could be what gives you drive. So that whole leopard walks into the room. The thing that takes control at that point is your fight or flight. And that is one of the fundamental lower levels of knowledge that we have.
The outside here, the outside, the inside, kind of like working with the outside on that level, I get it. I mean, literally control is what makes cameras possible. The idea of, the knowledge of yesterday and, the whole thing. Yeah. But I'm saying psychologically, we're dealing with psychological issues now. Because literally that's what happens to a crazy guy. Psychological conflict. He just loses it. And there seems to be a lack of clarity in that person, besides the whole physiological side of it. But psychologically, there seems to be a disorder. There seems to be a lack of clarity. So psychologically, can you live without any sense of control of, I can do something about myself, as if I am separate from myself? Because for you to do something about yourself, you have to have separated yourself from yourself. Now there's this guy who can really do something about this guy, psychologically.
I feel like no. Someone won't be able to. You can understand when something's a controlling factor. You can understand, oh wow, I'm not the controlling factor in this. Even if you try to say, I'll try be the controlling person. I feel like it goes against how the human mind works. Just in the way that back to the same thing. It's easier to have something under control. Even if you're under control, it's not like sometimes you could put yourself in control, you can be comfortable with it, but you need a control to push you forward. And identifying what's in control can be a very useful skill. And if, that whole chaotic, for a crazy person, to put it into easier terms, it depends on how they're affected. They might be in a state of where they're always in conflict. So they don't know what to put in control. That could be a bit harder because it's not as easy as, like you said before, when something happens, you can't just always be like, okay, I'm under control now. It could be chaotic.
Moment of,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can't, because there has to be a controlling factor to keep pushing you forward. Because if you don't have that, then what's the point?
Yeah. In fact, if you don't have control, you are not there. Literally, I'm trying to see the source of the control itself. Without control, without this idea of me, because the controller is me, and I am the past. The acquired knowledge, whether it's knowledge from 0.1 second or in my DNA and all that, it's the past. Without that, you are not there.
Yeah, you don't have a drive to push you forward.
In fact, not even that you don't have a drive. Would you say that? Saying you don't have the drive to push you forward, it means there's a me there, and there's something that will make me move. But what are you psychologically?
I feel like they can vary, but for me, I would say, I would say I'm a mind that's looking for purpose.
So you are a mind.
Yeah, what the past, the DNA, all of that, the knowledge, I'm using that and trying to get from point A to point Z trying to find the easiest, most enjoyable way to do that by using past knowledge. So I'm using the past knowledge as the control. So what I've learned before, I know that if I run headfirst into the glass, that point A to Z is going to be a lot more painful because now there's this thing. So I've learned, let me not do that, because the past knowledge is be like, whoa, stop. Let's think about this. And I think that can also fall under common sense in a way, that your drive, if you're not actively pushing to do something, instinct becomes your controller. That you're finding a way from point A to Z. You might not know what Z is, but just the bad knowledge from the good knowledge. You have a
direction.
You have a direction in...
if you know a point, I'm here, I need to get there. You project already, there's a direction.
The same thing as you might not know what there is, but where you currently are could be different. So even if you are happy, you could be like, what if I just add this thing in here? It might be better. So it's that whole thing of, I want to go to a different country because, I like it here, but what if it is different there and there's a possibility I enjoy it more? It's the same with liking hobbies. You can see someone do something, you're like, wow, I think I could really enjoy that. You get there and you're like, wow, this is miserable. I hate everything about this. But then you learn, wow, okay, let me not do that. And when you come to something else, you see someone, that was woodworking, you come to this and you'd be like, carpentry. Oh, it's kind of like woodworking, so maybe let me not go for that, because you've learned that. So it's that good and bad knowledge. You've learned, that woodworking thing I didn't like, that's bad knowledge. So let me try something else. So you lean towards the good side, and you can just keep trying until you find something that you're like, wow, okay, no, this is good. This was better than I was before. Might be by a lot, might be not by a lot, but I'm moving in a direction that I'm enjoying a lot more than I was in.
No, I get it. So basically when I say, what are you? Then you are that whole movement of thinking. Yeah.
You're a constant forward movement, yeah.
Yeah, you are that movement of bringing back what you already know and projecting what will happen.
Yeah.
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 And you can only project what will happen according to what you know.
Yeah, mainly, but on that thing of trying to find something new, you might not know. You might not know what is there, but you can use past knowledge to kind of think about it. Yeah, if you're trying to think of a new color, you use your knowledge of previous colors. So you might not know what that is, but you can know, what I've learned in the past, it could be this.
Yeah, but can you picture that?
You could picture an empty slot there. You can know what it is. You know it's a color. You know what a color looks like. So you know everything, but you don't know exactly what it's like. It's like looking at
literally, but you expect to see something. There's an act of seeing.
I think you can expect to see something, yes, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah, you don't know what it is.
It's empty something, but it's something that's there.
Yeah, but look at the layer down there. You expect seeing, an action of seeing of me here and that there.
That thing there, yes.
Because you can only think of that because you've been seeing.
Yeah. You know what seeing is.
Yeah,
so
you know what seeing. You might not know what we see there. I mean, you can literally picture a blank thing there because you know what blank is. You know? So you are the past. And the past wants control. The past wants to be repeated. The past being the controller, that's why you want to control. The very second you think, then there's a division between the controller and that which needs to be controlled. So in that, there's a big, in that there has to be a clash because you are denying what is. You are going back to what has been or imagining what will be. And that's a tremendous conflict. So psychologically, it seems like we are a bundle of memories. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. You know, I've noticed people really hate when I say that. Even though you go with them rationally, they'd like
Could you explain why they? Why? What don't they like about hearing that?
Because they feel like they're machines now.
Well,
yeah, they feel like they don't have... Because you know, they have this whole idea of freedom of will. In the sense of will is free. But then if you are nothing but the past, then what are you? What are you anyway? You know, what is freedom in that? It seems to be like an established order that is already there.
I feel like that could vary what they think is free. Like I completely agree that yes, technically we could be called machines of being controlled by past and knowledge, but you know, I see myself as free because I can use that past knowledge to find a way. Yeah. So, but I could use...
Who's the user?
I would be, the mind.
Yeah, the mind, which is the past.
Yeah. So, but I could use what I am to go to a place where I'm currently not. And I feel like that's freeing. If people think, wow, I'm being controlled by everything by the past, I'm a machine, you know, they're restricting themselves, saying, if you take that past away, you're starting from slate one. Which, again, you're still just going to be learning from the past. You'll need to learn from the beginning. If a tiger walks in here and they don't have the knowledge of, I need a fighter to get out of here, well, game over.
Yeah, no, actually, I think to them, because we're looking at within myself, you know, that this is me now, me alone, which is you too. If all I am, psychologically speaking, is knowledge, memories, past experiences, without that, what am I? Because we'd like to believe I am guiding myself somewhere, which is within myself, there's a me who is actually pushing the buttons around. But now, when you discover that actually you are being pushed around in the sense of the past is dictating where you should be going, it seems to direct you.
I feel like I blend those two together. There is no difference between the things that push me from the past and who I actually am. I feel like those personally are the exact same thing. So.
Yeah, which is, I think you are the past.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when people make a difference like that, they say, oh, I'm not free because I'm being controlled by the past. But you are the past is you. So how can you say I'm not being controlled by the past because I'm not in control when I feel like it's the same thing?
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think it's the same thing. I am the past. My very knowledge of myself, my perception of me is the past through thoughts. So, without thoughts, there's no control at all. And you can't do anything to stop that. You can't decide to stop thinking, that is thinking. You cannot decide to think, that is thinking. Basically, A is Z, A is B. There's no A and B, there's only A. in a way. So in that, I've removed the choices. That's why I feel there's no freedom, because I've removed the choices now. If you discover that A is B, there's neither A nor B. It's the same thing. So why do we fight so much to be in control? Could that be the reason that we are constantly denying the fact that there's no control at all?
It depends what you look at it. So there can be varying degrees of control, up until you're...
No, psychologically.
Psychologically, but, that could also blend to an everyday thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take school, for example. Until you finish school, you kind of feel like you're not in control, but rightfully so, because we've learned that you need to learn these things before you can, make your own choices. So I feel like in a way, because I know I was recently coming out of school, you always feel like you're not in control of what's going on. But I feel like it's a forced choice, because then when you get into the real world, you kind of know everyone follows the same thing. So I feel like sometimes choices is made, like an illusion of choice, just so people can feel a bit more free, because then, if I go down path A, it's going to lead me to C. But if I go down path B, it's going to lead me to C as well. And I feel like just having that fake choice can also be
it's
very
important.
Nice. Yeah.
No, I think it's important. It's comforting. It's important. We definitely shouldn't be taking it away. First of all, I don't even think we can take it away. I mean, how do you take away thought? It's a natural movement. There's no mistaken thought. It is there for a reason, right? But I think we're trying to, because remember one of the questions was what is going on, as in maybe there's a layer beyond thought that thoughts can't possibly ever touch, and perhaps we can get to that if we explore it. But see, I'll tell you, if I take A and B, there's no choice. Then you feel the need to tell me, to show me a different way of looking at things, which means you are reacting to what I'm saying, to what I just said. So am I right now. I say something, in a discussion, there seems to be, what you call choice is a reaction.
Yeah, it's your reaction of, what's happening in the past, using knowledge to go, which one would be most beneficial. Yeah.
Basically, you answering me right now is a reaction.
Yeah.
You can say, you know what, I'm not going to answer you, but in your mind, you're thinking about it. You've acquired that knowledge. It's like I was talking against one of the guys. I said, well, look, your very reply to my message shows that, you have no freedom, in that what you call choice seems to be a reaction. But then it's like, but I can decide not to talk to you. But that's a decision.
Yeah.
Still a choice.
100%.
So there's no freedom in choice. At least the way I see, there's no freedom. There are choices, but there's no freedom in there. Choices are given. You go for A or B. I think I don't want to really go into the whole determinism and I don't know how they call it again. It's things that determined or I forgot. It's one or the other. Completely forgot. But it seems like what we call freedom is the ability to choose between A and B. But deep down, there's really no freedom as the options are given. As long as you are reacting, you are not free. You have no choice but to react, either say yes or no.
Well, I see what you mean. So you're saying you don't have a freedom of choice, because when you're given something, you're given a choice to react to it.
To react to one or the other.
I feel there's a line where you can draw where you have the so-called freedom. I feel like I get my freedom from being given the choice. I have, yes, I'm not denying that I have to choose something. It's denying of the worst option. So I find my freedom in given, if you message me saying, hey, we still on for that recording? And I can say, yeah, we're still on, or I can flat out ignore you. I find the freedom in, I've been given choice, but I find the freedom in knowing what to choose.
Oh, so you're saying to you freedom is, but what is the definition of freedom? I think next time I'm going to start bringing a dictionary. Because you know why? I think we've evolved, yeah? we build all this technology and all that, but I feel like there's some sort of order in language itself, in math, in all these things, that we mustn't really think that we've evolved that much compared to the guys that came up with all these things. The caveman, it was really a gradual, orderly way of evolving. So when you read a word, there's a lot of meaning in it. But what is the definition of freedom? I don't know if I'm wrong, but isn't it to be free, not to be linked to something else?
So, I also don't know the exact definition, but how I would explain it for freedom would be, if you're given two choices, you have the ability to personally go with either one. If you don't have freedom, you're stuck with one by someone else or something else. Yeah.
But the freedom, but you can't choose three things because you've been given two.
Well, it depends. Depends on the situation, I would say.
Okay.
Go down, turn. If you hit a T-junction, do you go left or right? Yeah, you can go straight, but it's such an absurdity that you wouldn't really think about it,
I'm talking about right now. I give you A and B. I've only given you A and B. You might have the illusion in A or B, but from my perspective, who's given you A and B, you have no freedom.
I feel like where we define freedom in ourselves might differ in that regard.
That's why I wanted to open the dictionary.
Yeah, so it seems that you want the freedom to go, no, don't give me A and B. I want to be able to go A, B, C, D, E, how many times?
Being given options
restricts
freedom.
I find being given options and being able to choose out of those options is my freedom.
Is a freedom.
I would you like this or not? A and B, and then I go, well, I get to choose whether I want it or not. There's not some third option where I go, oh no, I want something else completely different, even if it's something else.
I get it.
I find the freedom in being able to go, oh, I like A rather than B. I'm not going to go, oh, you haven't given me a C, that I'm not free. I find my freedom in the choices that I can choose out of which you've given me.
Okay, so, but see, in choice, that's where conflict comes in. When you take A, you might just regret B later on. Like, oh no, I wish I would have taken B. So the regret comes into choice. Rejection, acceptance is only possible through choice, which all of them are. They create a lot of problem. Regret is a tremendous thing. You really feel, I should have done that. I've seen some people that regret their whole lives, and it could be something really, really small. Like when I was a kid, when you were a kid, I slapped you. So every time when I meet him, it's like, I'm so sorry for what I did. But that itself, doing something instead of the other, creates conflict in time.
And I feel like having that freedom to learn from it, oh, wow, A was so much better than B. But you had the choice to go, I will learn from that, and that builds you up. I had something very similar. I got myself pets quite a while ago, a good year or so ago, and it was the choice of, do I get them or not? And then I was like, okay, I'll get them. And then later on, while having them, you realize, wow, okay, maybe it wasn't the best decision right now. You learned from that and then had to give them away. And then from that also decision, I could have said I could keep them and try and look after them and learn, keep going. Or I can give them away and be like, okay, I learned from that. Let me try somewhere else. And both those decisions, if you think long enough, you can regret them. I could be like, I shouldn't have got them in the first place. But then I regret going, wow, I would never have learned that I wasn't ready. So yes, I might have gotten them, but I also regret giving them out because I learned from it. I learned that, wow, first of all, I had the choice of should I get them or not, and I got them, and then I gave them out, and I have the regret of going, wow, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but now you learn from it. So I put that on the good knowledge that it was harmful to me, but now I've learned in the past. Like if I was offered an animal now, yes. And then I go, wait, it didn't work out last time. Why didn't it work out? What's the difference from where I am now? Let me learn from that. No, let me not take them. So that's where I find my freedom of choice there. It's being able to if it makes an impact and being able to learn from it.
Okay. So for there to not be control, it means there mustn't be options.
Yeah.
As long as there are options, there's the controller who's choosing between A and B. That's outside. Let's say between two bottles. I'm given the options, the control is gonna be there. I have to choose either B or A.
Yeah.
Or I can be greedy and say I'm gonna take the two bottles, but still the option is there.
It's there, yeah. If you're able to do that, yeah, that could be option C, is to take both. You weren't given it, but you could be, okay, yeah, you have the freedom to be able to do so. If someone said pick A or B, and you're like, no, I'll take both, and he points a gun at you, I mean, that restricts your freedom a little bit.
Yeah.
But
so options, as long as there are options, control is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as there's division, basically. Because division is this and that, and then in this and that I have to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that out here, but psychologically as well, in thought itself. As long as there's division within yourself, you can choose. Division in knowledge, as there's this knowledge that wants repetition instead of that knowledge that wants repetition, and then the two are fighting. But you don't realize that within yourself, there's no such a thing as one knowledge and another. It's knowledge in action.
Yeah.
Just a movement of this and that. So it's almost as if, let's say, you're here, you're jumping to this knowledge and jumping to the other, the whole nervous circuit. You don't want to stand still all the time. That's what creates all that movement of chaos and all that. So saying is there a way to live a life with no control, is saying, can that movement stop? Even if we can't measure the stop, the length of the no movement, but is there a way for the movement to completely stop?
I don't think so, no.
How do you know?
Because having the possibility of stopping itself is a choice of stopping it. I feel like...
Come again, how?
So,
yeah.
The choosing to stop...
No, you can't choose. We already explored that. You can't do anything about it because you are the movement.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So I feel like as people, you're always in a constant forward movement, and the concept of stopping is not possible, because to change it, you have to control that. It has to be controlled in some way to stop being what it is to something else. So I feel like a person can't not be in control at all times by something. I feel like there is always a control aspect to it.
Yeah, there's always that movement happening.
Yeah.
That's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
There's always that psychological movement that is going on, which somehow is not so different from what is happening here. There's some sort of movement. The sun moving, everything is moving. So not having that means, at least psychologically, it's some sort of psychological death. You are not there, because for you to be there, you have to resist being... that A-B has to be going on. As long as that movement stops, there's no knowledge of you being there. There's no perception of me. So conflict is necessary in that sense of, I am, it gives you drive, I need to go there, I need to do this, keeps itself alive, which materializes out here as seeing a leopard, and I have to keep myself alive with all that complicated knowledge and all this. So no control is death.
Yeah, because there is no choice.
Isn't that why we are thinking in the first place?
Yeah, it's...
we don't want that.
If people aren't given control, they tend to lose purpose, I would feel. If, say, people at the side of the roads on the robots, if they have the choice of, I can go out there and try do something, or I could sit and not do anything. Yeah, it's a choice.
But could you think they can escape it? Because they also have another choice of, I need to get my needle and
yes, exactly. So there's still a choice there, and I feel like that's where
they just become a bit disturbed mentally.
Yeah,
I think really it's our responsibility to kind of take care of those people. I mean, anyone can go there.
To an extent, yeah.
I mean, we can't say
it always changes. I'm not saying no, we should leave that person there. I'm just saying it depends on the situations. We might not even have control over that situation. We might not be able to help because of choices. But going back to if there is a choice, that is what is considered alive. If you're dead, you stop moving. Literally and psychologically. There is no movement. There's no choice. There's nothing. So I feel like when you're dead, it's just that is the stop. So
you don't know. You can't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because knowing is that movement, is what I am. Knowing, knowledge. The past is what I am. So this here, what's going on, I really don't know. My brain is just too complex, too evolved. It quickly identifies, this is column, this camera, the language itself. I'm not even thinking about it. The English is there. I mean, sometimes I'm even translating from French to English. It's just so quick. I can't even think about it, But at the bottom there, literally, I don't know what is going on. I'm discovering it all the time. It's almost as if I am divorcing myself from what is going on. That's when I feel like I am. I feel I am in the past. But the very second I come here, which is discovering the new, I am not there, and I'm dead in a way. That's why I wanted to know if there a way to live with no control, and that would be, is there a way to completely be attentive to what is going on, including that same movement of thinking, what is going on out here and what is going on inside.
Yes. So you could be aware of anything. You might, you could, thinking deep, have the choice to stop, but of course that would lead to death. But you could be aware of everything that's going on. I think that's where meditation can fall under.
Yeah, I think some people try.
You just sit and you hear everything that's going around you, feel everything, you just take in all that's happening. Yeah, you won't be able to change necessarily anything about what's happening, but you can definitely identify everything that's going around. Yeah.
The identification seems to come a second later. That's when knowledge is into place. You can only identify what you know, what you've gathered. But in the gathering, in the seeing, in the happening, there seems to be I am not there to be gathering. I only gather later when I already know. So we've given a lot of importance to knowledge, gathering, more and more. Gather more food, more cars. Also, within ourselves, gather more books, more this guru saying this psychologist, this pastor, more and more and more and more. To the point where we divorce ourselves from what is actually going on. Now we live in ideas. People live in, you project something so far away that you really believe it's there. And then now it is affecting what is happening here. It's messing it up a little bit in a way.
I feel like that's a personal thing. It's almost you're in such a bad place where you are now that you would rather believe that I want to be over there, and you start believing that you're actually there. In some ways that can be good, fake it till you make it kind of thing. That whole thing about listening to gurus and mentors, and it's because you're looking at them and go, wow, they're in a good spot, or the thing that they're talking about is it's better than where I am now. So you start taking that stuff. So when you hear gurus say, wow, I should meditate for 5 hours because it's just put me in such a wonderful space, you tend to use that information because you want to get to that space of, I want to be better than where I am now. So gathering that information sometimes is good to stop what is currently going on. So putting yourself in a different space can be good, 100%.
So when you have an idea of there's a better place, you've created a path of, I'm here, I need to get there. How do you know when you get there? How do you
might never. That's what a drive could be.
Aren't you creating? That's the thing. Aren't you creating an impossible goal?
100%, and I feel like that's a good thing in some cases.
An impossible goal.
In school, I could have been, I can't wait to get out of school, be an adult, get a working job. Now I realize I'm here. I'm like, wow, I wish I was earning more money, didn't have a job. You're always pushing yourself to a place that could be better. Yeah. It doesn't mean that where you currently are is bad. It's just, it could be better than what you currently are.
There's an idea of better.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's an idea of things could be better than where I currently are. It doesn't mean where I am is bad. It just, it could be better. Might not be, but you could always try it. And that's where you learn, oh, that didn't go well. Oh, that was actually better. And I feel like that is a very important drive. Is, yes, it's an
what
impossible...
drives us.
Yeah, it's an impossible goal, but, you know, once you reach the end, there might not be a further on. So you just got to, you know, it's easier to... It's not easier. It's better to keep going until a goal that you can't reach than to reach a goal.
No, when you ask the most impossible, you definitely get something better, you know. So which means the goal of life then is to avoid death constantly.
Depends, I guess. There's
No,
some
in the way that we've been speaking,
yeah,
psychologically.
for us, yes, I would say because we agree that death is the
No movement.
no movement, no push, no control. For us, yeah, but there could be someone out there that their better place could be not being in control, sadly. It's a dark way of looking at it, but there might be someone out there that is nothing they've learned. If they try this, doesn't work, and they go, okay, what if I'm not in control? What if there's no push? That sounds like a better place.
But that's still another sort of control.
Yeah,
It's another
exactly.
form of control.
They're pushing themselves to a control, but you know, you can't exist, be alive, and not have control.
It's impossible.
So-
You are only aware of yourself through control. Through, you might say, okay, no, fine, I'm going to leave, you know, what I've seen a lot of people also telling me about Wu Tao, I don't know, they have so many different philosophies of just be like waves, you know, just ride the wave. I understand it's a very good concept, but waves are hitting the rocks for a reason. It's fighting. You can't decide not to be in control. Any decision is a controlling part of it.
Decided to control on being part of the waves. And
Yeah,
if you go further back, they're going, well, I'm just going with life, dude. I'm waking up, just carrying on, go to sleep, repeat. But, you know, it's because they're choosing to do that. They could wake up one day and be like, I'm going to do something new, which is then again a choice.
A choice, yeah.
They're choosing to go along with it.
Yeah.
Having no choice is not being able to do anything, which would be death. Yeah.
So that's what's going. Whether you accept the fact that there's no way of avoiding control, or you deny it, still that is what is happening within each and every one of us. And that is because life is the denial of that. No movement. As long as there's movement, there's life, both within myself and psychologically. Now, what's interesting is the mind now, which is me, which is knowledge, which is the past, says, you know what? Obviously, I've seen this. I've seen some people die. I've seen animals die. Everything literally dies. No movement. It seems like when I die at the end, there's no movement. There's nothing. I project something that is, which I call nothing. I say, you know what, it's no more thoughts, no more struggle, no more whatever, all that. But that is whatever that I'm projecting, whatever that I'm depicting, imagining, that is thought.
Yeah, 100%.
That is thought, right? So death is only possible. I don't know, I'm trying to explore this. I could be wrong. It seems like death is only possible right now.
Is it?
Yeah, psychological death is only possible right now because, and I'm not talking about my death, my personal death, because at the end of the day, if I say, well, I'm going to die, of course this man dies, the body dies, but what is the body? It's material, it's the material, the brain, the mind. What I call me is accumulated knowledge from the past. It's the same for you too.
Yeah, I see where you're getting at with that. Also could just be different versions of death. When I see its death is, yes, we may be a collection of the past, but it's how I imagine it is everyone is a book. They each have, the first few pages in the beginning is all the same, the fight or flight, it's the foundations which then change throughout the book. So when you die, everything might be the same everywhere else, but you're this bundle of this knowledge in this specific sequence like this. So when you die, the book is burnt. It's gone. And we find happiness in knowing that we ourselves are just this book. So yeah, we might die, the next person, there might be someone exactly identical to me, but, the book is different.
Yeah, the book is different. But perhaps they even do the exact same thing as you, but the only difference is today he never did this.
Yeah, or everything I could have someone exactly like me, does everything I do, every single part of the day, exactly the same, but the names of the books are different. It makes them different.
Yeah. No, but I'm talking on a deeper level. Because remember we're saying what is going on. It's not personal. We're trying to see what is going on, like on a general level. So that movement is what is going on. It seems to be happening out here and inside. The movement, which is the past, which is my knowledge, is what I call me. Same for you. You'd like to think you're different, because maybe you're Brennan. First of all, your shape is different. The whole skin tone is different and all that. Psychologically, also, you'd like to think you're different because you are you. You ate bread yesterday. I didn't eat bread. You opened your bottle. I didn't. But fundamentally, that is the movement of acquired knowledge within each and every one of us. That movement is what is saying me. It's first to see that the same movement is going on in that other person's brain or mind, whatever. So ultimately, we are not really different, psychologically speaking. It seems to be a process of accumulation of certain actions. Previous actions.
Depends where you draw the line in being different. Once you explain everything, if you make it very broad, yes, we could all be the same deep down in how we're all affected by the movement. It's the mind being affected by movement. Yes, that's what a human is. But me personally, I find that the beauty in, you say, I think I'm different from you and I, but
there's great beauty in that.
Exactly. Yeah, but I move that bar up, saying yes, we are different because of how the movement affects us differently. Yes, we're all affected by movement, but the line of where I say we're different is how that movement changes me. So yes, we might be all
How
be
does
pushed.
that movement change you?
From everything, exactly. Like how I opened my bottle, you didn't open mine. That yes, we were
you
pushed
mean
by
that way.
movement. Yes, but
So psychologically, what movement?
what we
Deep
do
down.
with the movement, that whole, yes, the movement is pushing me into choice A and B. And the reason that I have the freedom to choose B while you choose A draws the line of difference. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, no, I get it. So, but I'm trying to say on a fundamental level, it seems like we are living by certain rules, established rules, and that's what links us. Because on the superficially we are very different. Even in the everything is different on a superficial level, but deep down it's the same movement that is happening, which is coming up as different layers and layers. But deep down we are the same. Seeing is happening. He's looking at that phone there, but you're looking at me, and I'm like, but literally seeing is happening for all of us. Listening is happening and all that. So on that superficial level, there's no such thing as me and you.
I get what you're saying. You're saying that this is down there where everything is the same for everyone. That is your ground. Foundation.
Yeah, the foundation.
I feel like my foundation's a lot higher in the way that our foundation is... I try not to say we live on our foundation. We live what's past the foundation. So, if you're given two pieces of paper, they're exactly the same, but what you write on them is different. I find the beauty in that can be different. I find my foundation starts where they start to be different, not that they are the same.
Oh, no, I get it. I understand the layers.
Yeah.
Of course, I find a lot of pleasure living on those layers too, because that's when I choose Real Madrid. I don't know if you watch soccer or basketball.
But I get it. Yeah.
That's when I get the chance to choose,
but you're saying
Golden State Warriors, and you choose Lakers or whatever.
But you're saying we still have that foundation.
Yeah, the foundation on its own is, and there in the foundation there's neither me or you. There's foundation.
Push on mind. Yeah.
Yeah, which is dictating whatever that up here we're calling me. But on a deeper level, there's neither me or you. There seems to be a movement And that movement, as we are the denial of that movement, when we now go on different layers, we experience different things. I mean, you've had your childhood, I've had my own. We've had different pleasures, we've had different pains and all that. But on the foundation, that's what links us. Pleasure has been, you had, pain, all that. That's what links us. So if we're gonna, let's say, try to discover something, explore something, on the superficial level, we can never see the same. There's always gonna be some sort of, because I mean, you have your perspective, I have my own. The only time we can see the same thing at the same time is when we go to the depth of what is going on right now.
Well, I feel like that can be said about everything, really. Even if you go down from that, if you go down to atoms, everywhere, where everything is the same. I'm here 5 billion years ago. I was stardust. If you go down deep enough, everything has its fundamentals. But
even scientific as well, in the sense, I think they would agree. But I'm saying psychologically speaking, not because remember the knowledge you have, what you know of atoms and stardust, because we used to be stardust that compress and all that, is knowledge. Psychologically is knowledge. We're talking as simple, normal human beings. We don't really know too much about science or religion, whatever. In fact, we're just trying to explore ourselves, our mind, and trying to see what is going on. And it seems like the foundation is that what I am seems to be an accumulation of past moments.
I agree with you, but I feel like you're saying in a way that, very deep down, we're all the same. We're not different. That's what it sounds like you're trying to say. But I feel like the foundation is such a minuscule part of what we are now that I can't classify it as...
Isn't it the other way around?
As in?
The minuscule part is the layers. The foundation is the bigger.
No, I find the foundation of what makes us all the same and not different is such a small part that what makes us very different. That's how I see it. So I agree with you that if you keep going down and down to the foundation, everyone is exactly the same. We're knowledge pushed by movement. I agree with that, but I feel like everything past that can be so different that you can't classify. As a chocolate cake, because it has 1% chocolate in it, but the rest is vanilla. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's like this much chocolate and then this much vanilla. And you're like, oh, but it's a chocolate cake. That's what it feels like. But I'm just trying to say that it's just...
No, I get it.
Yeah.
And I know I have an idea of why you're saying like that, because you see, here on the layers, there's life. That's what life is denying that the bottom. Life is literally, diversity, this beauty and all that, because that movement basically, which is out here and psychologically, that movement is life. But the deeper you go there, the more there's no life. You're
I agree
dying.
with you.
What you're saying is death.
But I wouldn't classify that as saying we're all the same. Exactly. If you keep going down, we're all the same. But it's
in fact, if you keep going down, there's nothing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with you there. But I feel like it's just such a small bit of what the counter argument of that we are different is greater than saying we're all the same very deep down. We might have all the same starting point, but I'd rather not say it, because then it feels like I'm leaning on that 1% of my beliefs are leaning more to the 1% than the 99%.
No, then I understand.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, you have to stick to that. I mean, that's what makes life interesting.
But I agree with you. Yeah.
But because we're exploring everything. I mean, we can spend days and days exploring life, different colors. But we don't really have to do that, because it's your life.
We already know it. We already know there's difference.
We're trying to see something we don't know. We can't know. Something other than us, because we are knowledge. So the deeper you go there, the more there's no life. That is death. Where I am not. Out here, I can only be aware of myself through thought, through thinking. That's why that movement never stops. As long as I'm not thinking, there seems to be, it's just too, I don't know how to qualify it. Without thought, there's a sense of, nothingness. There's nothing, and it's very...
Without thought, there's the thought of no movement.
Yeah,
which is,
no movement.
I feel like, you've opened my eye to that maybe people are scared of death because life is movement, so we're
Life is
scared of
movement.
no movement.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's actually very interesting when you look at these things, because I feel down there, and by the way, when I say down there, it's a way of speaking, because my thought is always going to divide here and
And
there.
there, yeah.
But down there, the basement of all that, because it is so simple. It is so, as you were saying, really simple. Simplicity allows complexity, if I can put it like that. It's so simple that it has to integrate, phenomenon and all that. So there's another beauty in there. It's not blank. We just don't like it. We don't know it because we can't know it. But it's not blank. There's tremendous beauty in there. Perhaps that's what these guys are trying to do, by meditating. Although I'm not really condoning that whole meditation. I think it has some advantages. Calms you down a little bit. You feel the intensity of life. But to me, meditation is living, literally. See, for instance, right now, I consider it as I am meditating, looking at what is going on, rationally first, and then see where I can get stuck, and then see my own limits. So that's what I mean by, can we live a life with no control? Seeing, starting from the complexity and going all the way to the bottom, seeing actually the fear that you get from that, because the deeper you go, you are not there, and the first reaction is fear. When you only realize that you are there through fear, when you feel that sort of anxiety or fear, already you're there. But when you were there,
you get anxiety from thinking about it.
Yeah,
I see what you
thinking
mean.
about
So
it.
you're not
Yeah.
there, but you're putting yourself in that space there.
Yeah.
I get what you're meaning.
So I think that is what is going on, not just within ourselves. That's life, literally.
I feel like when you're saying, can you live life without control? It's trying to say, can a knife be without a knife? I feel like
Can a knife be
life
without
and
a-
control are interchangeable, because without
Yeah.
control there's death, so it can't be life. So I think the question of itself is, can you live life without control, is
No, maybe it's a wrong
redundant of
question.
itself. Yeah, exactly, because we've established
Ah,
that
yeah, it's a
life is
wrong
control.
question.
So you
Yeah.
can't say, is this without itself?
Yeah, I think that's why, probably that's why I also asked the question, what is a question? Because if you look at it, what is a question?
Off the top of my head,
Which
I'd say,
right now, probably this is a question.
yeah,
already,
off the
not
top of my
really.
head, it's trying to break down to its fundamentals of something. When you ask something, it's trying to get the most basic information out of something that you can understand. That's how I see it.
Yeah, but is there such a thing as a question? Because when I ask you what is a question, I already know what is a question.
You know what a question
Yeah,
is,
I
but
know.
you might not know what my view of a question is. It might
And
be
I'm
the
saying
same.
within myself or within yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So
is there a question?
yes,
Like what?
which you've just asked. It's the process of a question is breaking down. To its
No, well, I
fundamentals.
just asked you too bad. I'm saying, suppose we're alone. You're alone in this room. What is a question? Maybe the language is getting in the way,
It
but
might be a bit different.
yeah.
What you
Let me
mean
find
by
a
a
way
question
to-
might be different.
Yeah, let me try to rephrase it. For me to ask something, I have to know what I'm asking them. I have to have knowledge of whatever that is it that I'm asking. So if I ask, what am I, for example, there's an assumption in it of there's a me. There's a me, right? I'm asking what am I? So I already have the answer in my question.
You might not have the full answer though. How I see it is that that's what I mean by breaking down the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might have, okay, what is a bottle? I know a bottle is what holds water, but someone else might be, no, it's a container that can hold anything. It could be very different. So when you say, does the question exist? It's not that you're looking for an answer, you're looking to complete the answer.
Isn't the answer in the question itself?
No, there's the
How?
fundamentals for it. So you say, what am I? And you ask to another person, you're like, how do you, I can look in a mirror and say, how do I see myself? I see myself as, oh, I have this characteristic, I'm like this. And you ask someone else, like, what am I to you? And it's completely different. So
Yeah, no, that's completely different. No, we're sticking to psychologically as a person.
So it still stands saying that you might say, what is that? Yes, there's that, and you know what that is, but it might be completely different for someone else. It's the same thing with, you look at, what is the color red? And you look at it in one way and someone looks at it in a completely different way. So I feel like, yes, in the term that what is a question? Is there such thing as a question? Yes, because there's no definitive answer to that question.
Okay, I'm not sure I agree. I'm not sure I even get it. I'm trying to explore it. I feel like there's no answer, there's no question at all. In fact, every question has the answer in itself. Like if you really put a good question, the answer is already in the question.
Depends what you want the answer to be. I see it, I get what you're coming from, that you're trying to identify something that you already know that's there.
Know.
But I see it as I'm trying to gather more information on that said thing. So
which means you know the said thing.
Yeah, I know the said thing from my perspective. Even if it's just me, I know that there is another perspective. So how I see it is that, yes, there is a question because there will always be a different field. There will be a different look of it from somewhere else. It might be different.
Because I find it very hard to ask a question if I haven't been... I mean, for example, for someone to ask what is a planet, without the knowledge of a planet, how can I possibly ask that question?
I get what you mean, but
if I see, without even naming it, suppose I see this block here, which we've called planet.
Yeah.
If I ask, what is this? I'm just trying to find out what is going on, what is this thing? Now, I can go and explore, give it a name, go to the bottom of it and see, there's actually this other thing which I call now dust. And then there's this, basically I'm discovering. But in my question already, it seems to be, I can only ask something that I know about. I can go deeper into it. And the deeper I go, it's still the same equation. Like the more I look at it, the more I'm asking about it. The more I find something, the more there's question in it. So there seems to be like no end to the question until you say this is the answer. The question itself is the answer.
That's what I'm saying. There's no definitive answer. That's what scientists do. They say this does this does this. Why? That itself is the question. Why does it do it? They might know the two things, but they don't actually know why they're doing that. Yeah, you could say, what a planet is. If you think about a planet, it's rock in space, has dust and all of that. But up what point are you satisfied with an answer that you get? So I don't feel like when you reference a question, I can say, what is this? I know what this is, but I'm not satisfied with what I know about this.
The very dissatisfaction gives you the question.
Exactly. So you're trying to find more about it. I could say, what is a table? I know a table is supposed to hold stuff on it, but, then you can push on, like, what else can I put on the table? I know these bottles can hold it, but what if I put dumbbells on it? Like, oh, wow, okay, a table like this can do this. So that's what I mean. You can say, what is a planet? You know what a planet is, but it's almost, you're not satisfied with exactly how you define it. That's why I mean it's from multiple perspectives. Yeah, I could say, a table is used to hold light items, and then someone comes along and goes, I'm going to drop this heavy thing. You're like, I didn't know it could do that. That's one example of you're asking a question because you're not satisfied with what you already know about it. That's how I see it.
Yeah, you're asking a question because you're not satisfied with the answer that you already have. Which means the question is the denial of the answer that you already have.
Yeah, precisely.
And then it goes on. You already have the next answer too.
And then you can be like, now I'm happy as of right now with what I've asked. I'm happy with the amount of information I have about the answer.
Until you're not happy, because remember, thinking the control is not it's gonna stop. Is you ask more and more and more.
Depends when you're would say you're happy with it. If there's something I don't understand at work, for example, I could say, how do you do this? And then you're like, ooh, I'm not entirely happy with that. Let me dig a bit deeper into it. Like, what is a planet? Oh, it's a big rock in space. Okay, what's on that planet? Oh, dust. Oh, what's dust made of? So
I think that's what scientists try to do. They ask questions, they find the answers, they're not satisfied, they go deeper and deeper.
Until you are satisfied. And then someone else can come along and say, but why does this do this?
So, well, there's no satisfaction until you, because the next satisfaction is, in a way, analysis is always limited. Sorry. Psychological especially. Sorry. Psychologically, your conclusion are the introduction to the next analysis. When you're analyzing, there's always an incompleteness in that whole process. You get to a point, the conclusion of that will lead you to something else.
It might not be you, though. It could be a completely different person. You could be satisfied with, why does the planet move? Oh, because gravity and all of that. And then you realize, like, okay, why does the thing that's moving the planet have this much gravity? But I'm not curious. So, but I feel like all of this doesn't deny that there is a question. I feel like you're saying you don't understand, if you ask a question, you feel like you're answering already because you already know.
Yeah, I'm so I meant psychologically. It seems like you can only ask something you know about it. Something you know you can ask about something only when you know something about whatever you're asking.
I don't really agree with it, no. You could ask about in words, yes, you understand what it is. You're not going like, what is this thing I can't comprehend? But you might not know the information to understand it fully. Yes, I know how a computer works, and if I click this, it will open this. If someone never looked at a computer and they go, okay, I know this computer is made out of metal and blah, 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 but how when I click this, does it open this? And you explain and you go, oh, okay, I understand how it works. Not to a very deep level, but they're satisfied with, it's not magic to them. Every time someone brings up magic, I say magic is just science that we don't understand.
That we don't understand yet,
and I feel like that's what questions are for. It's to
because you see, look, you take a computer, right? A guy doesn't have much knowledge of it. Okay, it says it's metal and all that, but then it says, okay, if I press here, this thing switches on. He's asking a question, he already knows what happens when he presses. He just wants to know how does it happen.
Yeah.
So you can explain to him, you open up the computer, you show him how it is working. He knows exactly how it is working after you show him. He has to know knowledge and understanding of that. But the very knowledge of that is asking the question further and further.
But it might be in a way that he hasn't understood it. Yes, he knows that if you learn in school, if you connect this wire to this wire with the battery and the light comes on, yes, you know that, but you might not necessarily know that, if I push this button, it's the exact same thing. So you explain it in a way that they can use the past information to be like, okay, I understand how it works. Because what they see, they push a button, whoa, everything comes on. And then when you break it apart, you explain, it's the same as if you connect these two wires, the light comes on. It's the same. You push this button, it connects. And they'll be like, okay, I understand it now. I'm satisfied with the answer.
I think that it goes hand in hand with what we were saying about control. Control, you want to know how this computer is being operated. You already know it is being operated. So knowledge, you want to have knowledge of how that is happening. The very knowledge of that will give you direction onto, what should be the next step to find out. Maybe I see you playing with the computer. The knowledge of seeing you playing with that computer will guide my opening the computer and learning about it and all that. So in that sense, that's what I mean. There's no question. In the sense of knowledge, you can only ask a question after knowledge about that question is. I don't know.
I get what you mean, but I feel like that's what a question is of itself. So you can't say I disagree with the fact that you're saying there is no question because to understand something you need to already know about it. But I feel like that's what makes it a question. So I disagree with you saying that there is no question, because that is what a question is of itself.
Okay, now
Yeah.
maybe perhaps I'm trying to communicate something. The language is getting in the way, but okay, that's all right. I think that's why I want to talk about control. It seems like on a deeper level, there are neither options, no choices. Everything is already there, established. What we're experiencing seems to be on a very, very superficial level, because we are always a step behind from what is actually going on. So, giving up on yourself is first of all, no one wants to give up on himself, because I am me. I mean, that's me dying. That's why people, when they're about to die, I mean, you can say, I'm satisfied, I'm 89, I can just go and disappear. But really, the fear of it, or the second one, it's about when you really know that it's happening, there's tremendous fear that is there. You don't want to stop.
I think it can vary. I don't feel like...
Are you sure you think people would...
I bet there is a person out there that goes, I'm dying in the next 5 minutes, I'm not afraid of it for it.
Because they've projected something already.
It might be, yeah, there might be because it's religious reasons, or, they know once they die it's it, but they're going, I'm okay with the movement to stop. That's their choice. They're okay with it.
Yeah, which is not death. I mean, they're not okay with it. They don't realize what is going on. They feel, to them, that understanding, that knowledge is moving. It's making them feel comfortable. It's all right. I'm about to die. It's all right. But they don't realize that the very thinking itself is the fight of death. The very movement of thinking.
I wouldn't say it's a fight. I think it's an agreement.
An agreement to what?
That's how I see it. Exactly, that's how I see it.
No, because remember we said death is no movement.
Yeah, but that's the transition from movement into no movement doesn't have to be a fight. I know it's changing from A to B, but it doesn't mean that because they're thinking, it's inherently going against not thinking.
No, as we said, I mean, you can choose A or B. You can either choose to die a horrible death, you start crying about it and say, I still have things to do, or you can choose to be at peace with it, or whatever you want to call it, but the movement of accepting or rejecting is there. And as long as that movement is happening, death is being denied.
Oh, yeah, I just disagree with that.
Psychological death.
I disagree with that. Because they're stopping movement, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're denying it. It's just coming to acceptance. Movement? If someone's dying and they're going, wow, okay, no, I'm okay with going out right now, it doesn't mean that they're...
No, that's not stopping movement. That's still movement.
It's going from movement into no movement, which it doesn't have to be a denial. It doesn't have to be a fight. It could be... That's how I see it. I just see it as, if someone's accepting it, they're okay with it. It doesn't mean that they're...
No, I'm not saying they're fighting. No, I'm saying accepting is the same as denying. In the sense of, there's that movement of thinking happening.
I understand what you mean, but I don't agree with it.
Well, that accepting is denying.
Accepting is accepting. I see what you mean by accepting is denying.
Yeah.
That going for one means you can't go for the other.
Yeah, no, in the sense of, no, let me make it clear. How do you accept? You have knowledge of something, and then you embrace it. You say, this thing is coming, good, I'm at peace, I've done everything, that movement of things is happening. How do you reject? You have knowledge of what's about to come, and then you say, oh my God, it's awful, I don't want to, so that movement of thinking is again happening. In that sense, the movement in its base at the bottom is not different. The movement is happening. And as long as that movement is going on, death is not.
Yeah, if you're thinking about accepting it, you're not accepting it.
You are not accepting it.
I see what you're saying, but yeah, I can't see it that way.
How do you see it?
I see it as how as you see it, but because there's movement doesn't necessarily mean you if there's movement, you can't be not moving. So when you're thinking, oh, I accept it, that's the movement of you coming to, I see, there is no line where it's when you're accepting it, it's an easy passover. That's how I see
No,
it.
I think it's a better way of dying.
I just
I don't think people should be crying about their death, to be honest.
I 100%
Yeah.
people should. If
But when you're about to die, people should mourn.
I'm gonna die, if I haven't come to terms, yes. But if I have come to terms,
Yeah.
of course I want someone who's gonna live for 15 years after I die in the next 5 minutes to be crying, because it's
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, in the way I'm saying, people should live their lives. They should be
happy with
They
it.
should
Yeah.
be happy. They should be satisfied.
Yeah.
So that at least the passing on can be, a little bit better. But I'm saying, it's almost as if I'm asking you to see what death is right now. At least psychologically, rationally first, and then we see. Of course, we can't die. We here talking, thinking, but I'm saying, as long as that movement of thinking is happening, whether it's accepting what's about to come or rejecting what's about to come, it's the same movement that is going on. People might see it differently, as I'm about to die, I've accepted it, this one is rejecting it, but they don't realize that deep down, the motive of what is making them think is because they are rejecting death. So that's life still hanging on to life. And as long as that movement is happening psychologically, there's no moving on. Now, I die as boss, you still alive. I'd like to think that there's been a boss and a Brennan. Again, I'm on that fundamental level. Yeah. Boss doesn't realize that essentially he's Brennan on that level where the movement of life is denying death in a way. Life is the denial of death. Movement is the denial of no movement. So I might say, oh my God, I'm about to die, or I'll go to something else. Physically, I die. You probably cry. So, my friend just passed on. It's a terrible thing. But actually, he's never passed on because thinking is happening. Life is going on. So in a way, I think that's why these people talk about reincarnation. As long as that movement is happening, it's almost as if you're jumping in the same pool over and over. I don't know by what magic. I've seen on some documentaries, some kids come out of, like 2 years old. The very second they start talking, they describe how they died. They explain, it was an accident, he was a pilot. Really, point by point. And, people have done investigations. I'm not sure how accurate they are, but I'd like to think they were serious enough to go to the bottom of things. And then they can describe exactly what happened, how it happened, and why it happened. So, with that, which is thought, which is knowledge, that information never goes away. It is somehow roaming around. It's almost as if radio right now, that's your job, you probably know more than me. Right now, if I just have the good frequency, I'm listening. The Russian guy who's talking there in Russia is here. His voice is right here. I just have to put it together, and this guy is here. But he's not here. We know it's information. So, information never disappears here on Earth. I don't know about the black hole. I've heard that but maybe we haven't I don't know. We haven't really understood much about black holes, so I don't want to go into it. But information never goes away because the thinking process, the accumulation process is always there. Because we are limited, we have this idea of me, you, him, and there. We never seem to go to that level where actually someone can see that there's never been a separate thing fundamentally. So a man who's about to die, 2 seconds, whether he's rejecting or denying it, he doesn't want to move on. He doesn't want to die. I think that's where control comes into being. This thing of there's knowledge, past wants repetition. So repetition is happening over and over and over. Why doesn't knowledge want to stop? Understand it's death, it means I'm not there. Is that life? Not wanting to stop?
Well,
is that the meaning? I don't want to give it a meaning.
Like
yeah.
I feel like that goes to the point where I said earlier, where you can say, can you have life without movement? You
Life is
can't, because
movement.
life is movement. So when you ask that, it falls back on that same question for me, where, no, you can't, because it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same
Life
thing.
is movement. So
Oh, I'm sorry. So, now, which is why I have a feeling, I could be wrong, and I also don't like to be too personal with experiences, because, at the end of the day, you can never really know. So that's why I like exploring. We go, and then maybe someone else can also explore and then give me a completely different view, which is what we were talking about earlier on. So I feel like the only possible way of dying is through life.
oh yeah, one can't be without the other. Yeah,
Yeah, one can be without the other.
you cannot exist, but that's not the same as death. Yes.
Yeah. So a mind that doesn't know death, as it's living, seems to be stuck in a vicious circle in a way. It goes on and on. It changes faces a little bit, but it's really deep down is the same thing that is moving. Seems to be. It's almost as if life has to to meet with death finally, as you are alive, to be able to die, to be able to live with no sense of me, no sense of control. But the whole society is denying that every other second. I understand the beauty of it. I mean, tremendously, important to have a sense of me, my identity. And conflict arises out of that, because as long as you're not in terms with death, as long as you're not facing death, conflict is bound to happen. So how does a man die? How would you be aware? Because being aware that it happened is too late. You're alive. See what I'm trying to get at?
It's simplest answer to that is no, you can't. How does a man die?
Yeah.
From their point of view, they don't.
Yeah.
It's the Schrodinger's cat all over again. You
Yeah.
can only know
Once
the
you
state
look,
of something is when you look. So
When you look.
yes, you'll not know, but if you die, you don't know that you're dead.
Yeah.
Technically, you can know that, I'm gonna be dead by tomorrow, but you won't know when you're dead, because you're dead, but people can see it. It's like, oh, he's dead. So no, a person cannot know that they're dead. They can know that they're dying, but no. Yeah.
The very second they know, they're back.
Yeah. There's no point. Yeah, technically you're always alive.
Yeah.
But from other people's perspective, no, you can. So it's a perspective thing again. Yeah.
But I feel that's what's happening. As in, all there is death. Oh man, it sounds awful even saying that. I apologize for whoever's
but
gonna
I
hear
think
that.
that's that drive.
Yeah.
That's what makes that impossible goal. It's what makes it impossible, because if you always set an impossible goal with no end, it's technically not impossible. If you have an impossible goal with an impossible time, they cancel each other out. It becomes a stasis of sorts. So
the more I look at it, it's almost as if all there is death, and life is denying that. It can't possibly acknowledge that.
it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No, to me that is
it's
not a bad
thing.
Yeah. But I know to a lot of people it will be awful. Telling someone that this is death.
Yeah, it sounds negative, but I think that's because we've assumed death to be a negative thing. And, as someone right now, yes.
I'd rather think it's a very peaceful thing.
No, I see it as a negative thing, but that's what gives it drive. If you see it as a peaceful thing, like, why not do it? Why not just be dead now?
But because I can't be dead. I am the denial of death. Life is, it's like my mind psychologically. I am the denial of death. As long as I am there, I'm denying that no movement. Which, I mean, literally we're having a podcast right now.
Yeah.
We're talking.
I know what you mean, but, if you're alive, you're denying death. I feel like I disagree with the word denying.
Okay, what's better
I
word?
don't know a word. I'm trying to think of one, but I feel like being living is just not being dead. It doesn't mean that you're. I disagree with the word denial. I think I see that now. It's just that being alive is not denying death. It's just not being dead. That's how. I don't want to use the word denying it.
Yeah, because you see, I have a different opinion. In the sense of, I actually think this is death. I know it sounds a bit stupid, but as in, there's no other thing than this. It can change shape, form. We have an idea of something other than this only through psychological knowledge. Only through having gathered this, and then we project something that apparently is different from what we've gathered, which is still the same thing as we've gathered. So, seeing the illusion in that, seeing the illusion of my thoughts, my projection, my remembrance, the limit itself, literally, that every second that I'm thinking, I am, in a way, divorcing, maybe it's better than denying, divorcing this. You know, I'm projecting, I'm imagining, literally. I'm imagining a non-movement. Seeing the illusion of that, of psychological movement, keeps me grounded here. And this is death, which is the new. I'm discovering all the time. I'm dying to the old. I am discovering every other second.
I see where you come from, but I wouldn't put it that way. I understand what you mean by this is death, but I would say this is life because I know there is death. I wouldn't say this is death. I'd say, yes, it's the end.
Knowing there's death, isn't that life?
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't say this is death. You would rather look at almost the better side of it. So yeah, technically, deep down, it is death because of life, but then you would rather just say, this is life.
Yeah, I can say, wait, this is life.
So, yeah, I see where you come from.
I can say life is death.
Life is there because of death. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no one without the other. It's
exactly.
one coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so me saying this is death, it's life saying this is death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I just personally, for mentality's sake, I would rather say this is life.
Yeah, no, please, go ahead, you say that.
Yeah, but I agree with you, yeah.
So, and you know that mentality's sake, because to me too, when I look at things, it depends on how you look at it. It can be a bit overwhelming because acknowledging that, it's almost as if you've walked to the depth of life itself. And no one is willing to walk to that depth because, it's you're losing yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's seems to be beauty in it and importance in doing that, because when you hold on to this too much, you start imagining what death is, and you, by imagining that, now you get in the way. You attract death in a way. That's why people don't want to die. People would rather kill others so they can stay here. It's a survival thing now. It's literally what life is. You survive. But if you see the futility of the movement itself, you don't just go and jump through a window. You see the beauty of it first. You have to focus on the beauty. But if you see also you see the futility of the movement, and you see the depth of that, the movement is the non-movement is the movement in a way. You've completed the circle. You're no longer a point in the circle. You've completed the entire circle. I don't see. You can't have a break without the complete of the circle. You're just moving around. Yeah. So is that what's going on?
Constant movement. I think the simplest way to put it is, what is going on is just that everything's moving. So until it isn't. Until it isn't.
Yeah, until it isn't, because that's why I asked the question, what is a question? The question itself, whatever we ask the question, rationally, we can only get here rationally. Because, And rationally means there's knowledge. You look at things, knowledge of things, you acquire them, and then you see the answer. The answer was always there because you used your rationale. Now, you get there, now you try to repeat again the circle. You've started from the beginning to the end, but when you get there, you feel like this is not, it's not enough. Let me redo it. It's almost as if, looking at life in general, the best way of putting it is almost as if the thing is so damn nice that it has to do it again.
I wouldn't say it's nice.
Well,
I would say it's better than not moving. I wouldn't say that it's... Yes, it has its nice things, but it doesn't mean that itself is so good that I'll do it again.
Would you have a choice? Would you redo it if you had a choice?
I can't answer that because I haven't gotten to a point where I have the choice of accepting it, I would say. I've had moments in life where you skim death, and out of all those times I've said, "Ooh, no, not ready for that." So until I feel like I come to a point where I was like, that was nice. Would I do it again? I think that's the only time I can answer it. But as of right now, I can't say.
So you wouldn't do it if it's not nice?
As of right now, no.
Yeah.
No, because I'm still at a point where I'm not accepted. So if it was here, I would be... I see it reflecting is a point where you can see, where you can compare the good to the bad. So would you go through all the bad again just to experience all that good that you really liked? And at that point, I'd say, personally, no. If I was to die right now and given a choice, I'd be like,
Yeah.
If it was to experience everything all over again and just come to the same point, then no. If I was given more time, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd rather have nothing instead of bad things. Suppose if there's no nice thing, your whole life been bad, and then you're about to die.
Yes, I would
rather
have nothing than go bad, because how I see it, nothing is very neutral. It's dead center of good and bad. So why would I lean going to the bad? If there was more good, then yeah, because there's more good than the bad. But I see nothing is very neutral, down the middle.
So then, what is time then? If that movement is constant, or constant, it's not really constant. It seems to be I guess constant. I don't know how to qualify it. Then what is time if deep down it's a movement, it's like an ongoing thing?
Through all of this, you've mentioned circles a lot. I don't like to see it as a circle. I see it more as a spiral. If you're looking at it dead on, it looks like a circle, but if you just look at it from a different angle, it becomes a spiral that at some point can end. Doesn't mean it'll come back to a full circle.
Okay, a spiral, but so time is what? It's continuation.
There's no stopping, yeah, but again, from perspective, it stops. If you were to die, for me, your end, your time has stopped. It doesn't mean time has stopped, but it's a very much perspective thing. That's how I like to see it.
Doesn't time stop now?
No, time doesn't stop. It stops from different people's perspectives. It can.
But I mean, for you to be aware of time, psychologically, you are acquiring some sort of knowledge, isn't it?
It doesn't mean it stops. I can understand the concept of now, but now is also constantly changing. So it doesn't mean that now stops. Time doesn't stop because
now
it's
is
now.
Forever new.
Yeah, exactly. It's continuously moving, and I understand that. It doesn't mean the now is 1 second ago now. It is now as in continuously moving now.
That's very interesting because one reason I started the podcast was, well, besides exploring, I feel time has got to stop. Psychologically, in exploring all this, of course right now we're using a lot of intellect and all that, but in exploring seeing through the movement of life itself, basically movement being aware of itself, because there's nothing other than the movement. As long as the movement is happening, seems like there's nothing new.
Depends how you look at it.
Psychologically speaking. Because I am knowledge.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel I see it very heavily on perspective. Yeah, that's when you say psychologically, it's your psychologically. It's
Okay, you said a lot perspective a lot of times. What is a perspective?
It's different people. So it's
how different are you?
You're seeing something go from here to the end there. I'm seeing it from this point of view. You're seeing it from that point of view.
Yeah.
If there's a block in my way here, I see it stop, and all I know is that it went past this point.
Mm-hmm.
For all I know, it's gone. It could have disappeared, but for you see it keep on moving. That's how I see.
Yeah, but you've got an understanding. You've realized that you are limited in perspective.
Yes.
Perspectives are limited. That understanding, I also have that understanding now. Doesn't that understanding link us? Are we not?
We can understand that what we're seeing might not be the full true story. It's the same thing when two people in an argument. There's three things. There's the one person's point of view, the second person's point of view, and the truth. Yeah. And that's how I just like to see it.
Wouldn't you say understanding is truth?
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, I'm pointing at the truth. Let's get away from the perspective. We understand we are limited.
That, though.
No, we are limited. We can't. Yeah, of course, you have a perspective. I have mine, but I'm saying the understanding that you have a perspective. The understanding that you are always limited, according to what you've experienced, what you're seeing. I have that understanding now. Where is perspective in that understanding? Is there such a thing as a perspective anymore?
Yes. It's the same thing as the question is, if you're questioning your perspective, it's because you're not satisfied with your perspective. So if you say this is the truth, getting rid of perspectives, you can still understand it differently. So I feel like you can't get rid of perspective no matter what, because you will just understand it differently in every way.
But see, here you have an understanding that perspectives are always going to be limited. That understanding is true.
Yeah.
There's truth
Which,
in it.
yeah, it itself doesn't mean that there's no perspective on it. It just means that we have a almost perfect similar perspective of it. It doesn't mean that there's no perspective. It just means that we've come to agreement that...
No, not agreeing or disagreeing. We know, look, we are two here, right? We have different perspectives. No matter what I do, my perspective is always going to be limited because I have information that I haven't gathered. You have the other information that I don't have. So we are different in that way. We have different perspectives. Acknowledging that, understanding the limitation of our own perspective is true. There's truth in it, that I am limited. So why are you calling it a perspective anymore if you've gotten to the truth?
Because it's still a perspective, because we've come to the same thing. It doesn't mean it changes that it is perspective, yes, but we see it the same. It doesn't mean that it doesn't become one thing. I just see it as, you see the color red.
Yeah.
If I'm looking from here, a certain light's hitting it here, you're seeing it differently, but if we move to the same spot, we're still...
Now you move around.
Exactly.
The more I move, the more...
We come to the same agreement that, yes, it's the same thing, but it's still different perspectives.
So you feel there could be another perspective.
It could be exactly the same. We could see it exactly the same way, but it doesn't change that there's still two different things, two different perspectives of it.
Okay,
that's how I see it.
Yeah, you'd rather focus on the perspective, which brings back again to the surface. So you'd rather focus on the complexity of life instead of the simplicity of life.
Yeah, it gives me more meaning behind it. Yeah,
more meaning.
I would rather not look at the foundations at 1% because mentally it doesn't work with me than if I look at the 99%. I'm very big on that perspective of we see things differently, even if it's exactly the same. Yeah, we perceive it.
Is it too personal if I ask mentally why it doesn't work with you?
No, not at all. It's
There you go. There's 5 minutes left on this audio.
Okay, so I'll answer this question.
Okay.
We can see about there. I like to look at the broader scene just because the complexity is easier than looking at the foundations for me. The reason behind it, it's probably just because of how my mind works, but it's way easier to accept what life is when I look at how we can be different and not the same. If I look at all the same, it feels bland. It feels just
spice in it.
It's the my mind just like that sound, you know, when you said, you know, this is death, and some people be like, oh, that's so negative. That's how I feel about looking when you say like, you know, very deep down we're all the same. Yes, I agree with it, but I'd rather say we're very different just because it makes me happier.
Makes you happy.
It makes me happier to know that we are different rather than being the same.
Yeah, so which means you're avoiding something. But
Yeah,
you're avoiding the absence of happiness.
I'm avoiding. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I'm choosing to rather look at it in this way because I know if I look at the other way, I'm not going to be happy about it.
Not going to be happy.
Yeah.
About You already know what will happen, basically.
Not that I know what would happen. I just
Well, you know that at least this state of happiness won't be there.
would I rather take a hammer to my left hand or my right hand? I wouldn't, but you know, I use my right hand, so I'll choose my left. It's more of a. It doesn't mean one is better than the other, but
Yeah.
for me, I perceive it to be better than the other option. I just find it better to
That's
accept.
that's very interesting. I wonder why. But it's very interesting. I mean, a lot of people prefer that way, but I feel it hides some sort of fear, like deep hidden fear, which we all share. Again, I'm saying we all the same. My bad.
Yeah, that's how you could look at it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with
No,
that.
I don't think I'm being personal. I don't think, because you see, you would rather be personal, you know, me. I'm almost as if I'm rejecting myself constantly. So, and the more I do that, I know that fear too. It seems like you are constantly running away from something as a human mind, not you personally with what you've gone through, whatever. But there's a fear of something deep down there, and that's what makes people rather focus on the complexity of the thing itself. And I believe it's death.
I agree.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, hopefully you'll find out when you die. Then.
I feel like I've learned to look at it differently. I think I've shied away from not looking at the foundations because I just not like to, but understanding it and perceiving it is.
Plus, it's much more manageable. The foundation is too blah, you know. It's the window you can clean, the chair you can move it around. The foundation is constant. It's there. So you feel overwhelmed in a way. We feel overwhelmed by the foundation. So I think it's a natural response to that. But anyway, thanks a lot for coming, Brian. This was really interesting. I feel perhaps we should explore more even off camera. I think it's a very interesting way of looking. I've never met someone who's so adamant in looking at the beauty of, you know, there's beauty in death as well, but the beauty of life like that. I'm intrigued to know what is there. So thanks a lot for coming, and everyone, thanks a lot for being with us. We'll see you very soon in our next episode.